Hi, everyone. Just wanted to take a moment to go through domain and range and practice a little bit with these. In these particular problems, we're just looking for either the domain or the range. Usually, when you're looking for them, you can kind of give them together. But for our purposes and making sure that we're all set with the notation and things like that, we're just going to be using one at a time. The other benefit to this is if you recall the wonders of interval notation, you are going to use that again for domain and range. So, as a reminder, the domain, that's essentially all of your x values, your inputs, and the range is all of your y values. And when you are reporting the domain, you would be looking from left to right on a graph. So you go from most negative over to the most positive. Um, and then when you are dealing with the range, you are going from bottom to the top. All right. So remember domain left to right, range bottom to top. And again, when we're setting that up, we'll go over how to appropriately do that. So we're trying to find the range of this graph. So we are going to go from the bottom to the top. So we need to look for the lowest most point and then move up from there. So this right here, -1 appears to be our lowest most point right there. So at -1, and then we go up, we go up, we go up, and this seems to be the highest most point right here at 6. Okay, so we go from -1 to 6, right? We're going from the bottom to the top. The only thing that we have to be careful of, that is an open circle. And if you recall, open circles meant we do not include it. When we were dealing with interval notation before, an open circle meant a parenthesis. Even though there is no specific circle here, because it is not explicitly open, you assume it is a closed circle. So if I were to put a point here, it would be a closed circle. So we do have to use the closed bracket. So we are going to use a bracket for the left because that is the bottommost, and we're going up, and we are going to use a parenthesis at the end. All right. So I am going from -1 up to 6. Right. And let's double check, make sure we're good on that. And there we have it. Right. The y-axis is a closed circle, goes up to an open circle. Let's look at another one. So now we are dealing with the domain. So these ones I think that tend to be a little bit easier for people to grasp because we're going from left to right. So let's find the leftmost point, which would be here, -3. And we're going over to the rightmost point of 5. Okay, so we're going from -3 over to 5. And what exactly are we doing with this? Again, they are both closed circles. Both closed circles. So therefore, we do have to use two brackets. So we go from -3 over to 5. There you have it. Let's do a couple more for good measure. Let's do a new problem. The range, again, we're going to go from the bottom. Here's our bottom, our -9, and we're going up to the top of 9. Now, even though the endpoints here are both open circles, because the bottommost point and the topmost point, the minimum and the maximum, are on part of the curve, we are going to say we have our closed circles, right? We have closed circles. So even though you have two endpoints, and if you were doing domain, you would have used parentheses because both of these minimums and the maximum are at the a point on the line. Or the curve, I should say. We're going to use brackets. Okay. So let's look at those. Last one. Okay, domain. We'll do this one. All right, so again, we're going from the leftmost point to the rightmost point. So our domain minimum over to our domain maximum. So we go from -10 over to 11. Okay, again, you don't have to necessarily hit these buttons, but you can. -10 over to 11. And by the way, all this means, and I am remiss from not saying this earlier, is we are going and we're including everything between -10 and 11, including, because that's what these brackets mean, the bracket just means we include the endpoints of -10 and 11. All right. So we are including these, all right? So let's just be careful with that. Okay. Let's go back a little bit and let's look at domain and range with using problems like these. So these ones are a little bit more interesting, and I just want to show you it when we're looking at Desmos. So if I'm graphing in Desmos, here we go. What are we trying to find? We're trying to find the function. Oh, great, it doesn't let me do it. The function of x minus 5 squared and then minus 2. All right. Don't know why that took so long, but okay. So f of x, oops. F of x equal to, in parentheses, x minus 5 squared. Oops, not dollar sign. Squared minus 2. All right. So there we have it. Let's see what's going on here with our domain. So what are we looking for? We're looking for the domain. So we're going from, well, how far left am I going? I keep zooming out. You will see it is going very quickly up. However, because there's no ending point, it is eventually going to continue on forever in the lefternmost. Left. It'll continue on forever. The other thing is, on the other side, it's going to continue on forever in that direction. So it's going on forever on both sides in terms of x. Even though it doesn't necessarily look like it, it is going on forever on both sides of x. So because of that, I can just say all real numbers. So you can say all real numbers. I'm genuinely curious. I don't know what it's going to do if I do this. Is it going to yell at you? No, okay, it's okay with that. So it goes from negative infinity to infinity. And you could have also just written all real numbers. Either of those is acceptable. Since the graph goes left and right forever, even if you cannot see it, it does include them, okay? So you just need to be careful that it will go on forever. Let's look at another one. All right, well, that's domain. I don't want to do another domain. Let's do a range. Okay, so here we have a range of negative x minus 4, and we have a plus 3 here. All right, so as you can tell, because we are now dealing with range, we do have a maximum, but as you can kind of see here, we don't have a minimum. So my minimum most value that I'm going to be putting in, it's not necessarily a value, the concept of infinity. So we are going forever down, but we do only go up a certain amount. We only do go up to 3, right? So we are going to go from, and we have to include 3, by the way. Again, that was a closed circle. So we go from negative infinity over to, or over and up to 3. Okay, there you have it. Let's do one more for good measure. All right. There are all kinds of different things you could potentially graph and just use it on Desmos. Plus 1. What are we doing? Range. Okay, so the range, again, now we have a minimum, but we have no maximum. And we are still including the 0. The 0 is my minimum for my y value. Yeah, we're going from 0 and we're going up forever, so we're going up for infinity. All right. So with domain and range, it's just a matter of including what x and y values you can have in your answer and which ones make sense. Obviously, if you're dealing with real-world scenarios, sometimes there are certain domain restrictions that you have to account for. But for the purposes of graphing and generalizing, we're just looking at domain and range of the functions overall. So we're going to get more practice with this. So let me know if you have any questions, and have a good night.